What's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY. As always, presented by Bet Parks and Central City Toyota. John Marks here. Good morning to everybody watching on YouTube, our Mad Shatters. We're building a community of people that watch the show live every morning at 8 o'clock on YouTube. But, of course, you can watch whenever on YouTube. Just search PHLY Sports. Smash the subscribe button, like, comment, etc. Everybody listening on the audio version of the podcast, good morning. It's posted every day after the show, shortly after 9 o'clock. We are live on a Tuesday morning. As you can hear, I've been gargling with razor blades. Yes, my voice is shot. Hopefully I can make it through this hour-long show. Tyler Zuli's here with me. He'll help. There's a jackhammer that's in the background. If you hear something that's going, yes, they're actually jackhammering pretty much right outside of our window here. So, we had the fire alarm going off during the show one week, and we have the jackhammer going off today. All right, so you never know day to day in sports what you're going to be talking about, and then something happens, and you're like, all right, well, obviously we're going to be talking about that. I didn't realize that Brandon Graham was going to light the team on fire. As Black Grady texted me a little while ago saying the same thing. Yeah, man, he did. It's interesting because even on the show yesterday, one of my main points with where I saw the team and the problems I potentially saw with the team was the fact that A.J. Brown came out after the game and had words for Jalen Hurts in the passing offense. And by the way, Devontae Smith also is clearly unhappy on the team. So let's just not make this about A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown shouldn't have come out and said anything, but Devontae Smith came out. He didn't need to say anything. He's clearly not happy with the passing offense. So, I realize that this is a potential problem because when you're talking about team chemistry, there's nothing that can kill a team more than when guys aren't getting along. And I had said this last year. I said it before it started happening. I said it during the skid, and I said it after the season. A team that starts 10-1, and that wasn't a fluky 10-1. They had real wins. They beat Kansas City on the road on Monday Night Football. They had a back-and-forth game against Buffalo where they got a big win. The team just totally fell apart. And, of course, it has to do with X's and O's because it's football. But when you go from a 10-1 Super Bowl favorite to you're getting smashed by the Buccaneers in the wild card round of the playoffs. They lost to the Cardinals on their home field with the division on the line. It has to do with the Jimmies and Joes just as much as it has to do with the X's and the O's. And there was clearly something that was internal going on in the locker room last year. And after the season, you hear the reporting. Yeah, Tim McManus wrote a couple different times on what was going on. I remember Howard Eskin coming out and talking about how he named Fletcher Cox and said that he wasn't happy with the way that Jalen was handling the situation and the way that Jalen was behaving on the field. There was a lot going on last year. And everything that the Eagles did in training camp was to say, hey, look, we're trying to fix things. We're fixing things with Nick Sirianni. We're trying to fix the relationship with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts. To the Eagles' credit, they didn't run away and hide from the relationship being a problem and say, well, that's just not true. They said how they're trying to repair the relationship. The relationship between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, for all the people that DM'd me death threats or said things about my family or tweeted at me or whatever, because I had said that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown's relationship wasn't good, well, Brandon Graham pretty much confirmed that last night on his show on WIP. I had heard last year through a couple different places and people, and this was when they were winning, and this is documented. I said this on the air, that AJ and Jalen Hurts' relationship wasn't good. Craig Carton came out with a report of, now on FS1. Craig Carton came out talking about how there was issues that couldn't be repaired or fixed in the locker room, and he was talking about Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. To be clear, I don't know exactly what it is, but I know last year that I had heard when they were still winning that A.J. and Jalen were not good. And that's not a report. I didn't talk about it a lot. I didn't come out and say, report, A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts hate each other. I can just tell you that I had heard from multiple places, multiple sources, that was the case. So what was it? Is it repairable? Is it fixable? Well, I don't know, man. Brandon Graham, a year later, is coming out and saying that they're not friends and they got to try to fix it and act like men and trying to fix it, that it's a business. Do we have Brandon Graham? Do we have what he said last night? No. Well, I mean, if you didn't hear it by now, and really if you listen to the first segment of the show, he was very candid. I worked for Brandon. I worked with Brandon on the Brandon Graham show for 7 seasons. So I know Brandon very well. And I know when Brandon wants to say something, Brandon will come out and say something. I'll give you an example, and I'm sure there's more than this, but one example was after Darius Slay pointed the finger and called out one of the cornerbacks in a game that made a mistake. And after the game, he threw him under the bus. And I asked Brandon about it the next day, and his reaction was, yeah, he can't do that. We don't do that here in Philadelphia. That's not okay. And it wasn't like a big calling out, but he felt comfortable in saying, we don't do that. That's not what the Eagles do. And he said it publicly. You know, he got tweeted out. Reporters tweeted out, this is what Brandon Graham said or whatever. And that was that. Nothing else happened from it. So what I think happened last night was that Brandon was unhappy that AJ came out after the game. And he made it an issue. They could have come out. He could have came out and said, we won the game. Of course, we'd like the offense to be better, but we won the game and we're still trying to get there with the offense. He did not do that. He said only a few words, but those words were very telling. And it was telling that he's not okay with the way things are going. The Eagles are 10-0 when A.J. Brown plays this season. They're 45-19 when Jalen Hurts starts. And it feels like this team's about to fall apart. They haven't lost a game with A.J. Brown playing this year. And why does it feel like this is bubbling to where it can fall apart? So I think Brandon last night comes out with like, hey, you can't do that. You can't act like that. That's not okay. And then he gets into talking about how they're not friends anymore and they have to start acting like this is a business and you can't go out and you can't be using the media to air your grievances while Brandon's using the media to air the grievances. And I just think he got caught up in the moment, not realizing how much he was saying. So if you're going to say that, and I've seen a lot of this, and I hate quoting social media because I know it's not real, but a lot of Eagles fans, Philadelphia media is the worst. They misinterpreted what Brandon was saying. There's no misinterpretation of what Brandon said. Go listen to the tonight. Don't even take the clip that you're seeing online out of context. Don't take it. Listen to the whole segment. Listen to the whole first segment. It's very good. And tell me that he's taken out of context, because he's not. It's clear. Can we just agree on this? That Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, their relationship ain't good. And A.J. Brown is a diva wide receiver. And when he's not getting throws, and he's not getting throws early, and the passing game is struggling, then he's going to be pissed. And he's not happy right now. Devontae Smith's not happy either. This isn't just A.J. Brown. A.J. came out and gave the one-word answers to everything. Can it get cleaned up? Damn, I hope so. Because the last thing this team needs is kind of internal strife. There's too much talent on this team. They've been playing too well. The year that the Eagles won the Super Bowl, 2017, there was no pulling this direction, pushing that direction. Everybody was pulling in the right direction. The things that were going on in this country, Chris Long, Malcolm Jenkins, the national anthem debate, kneeling, putting your arms around teammates, it brought the team closer. It brought them together. They were united. Everybody was pulling in the right direction. Last year, you didn't see that. Last year, you saw a lot of stuff going on. And once you stop winning, then you find out about your team. We're about to find out about this team right now because they have a really, really tough game against the Steelers this weekend. And if they come out and they lay an egg, forget about it. Forget about it. I've seen some people say how big of a game it is this weekend, how it's a must-win game. They can lose a game. They can take another loss. That's not going to be the end of the season. It's in this spot with the spotlight now on the Eagles through Brandon Graham's comments. This is one of the biggest stories in sports. ESPN, FS1, local sports radio, national sports radio are going to be talking about this. Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown aren't friends. They obviously have internal issues with them. That's not good. That is not good. The only thing that could be worse would be a head coach and quarterback. Oh, wait, that was last year that they had the problem. As Rich Hoffman puts in our headline of PHLY Daily this morning, delivered right to my inbox. You can get it at allphly.com. As the Eagles turn. Remember they used to be best friends? Pretty clearly they're not best friends anymore, Tyler Zulli. As we'll get the headlines coming up here in a second. But, BG, I think, wanting to come out and be a leader and say, hey, you can't say that, ends up opening up an entirely different whole can of worms. And you wonder how the team's going to respond because now Nick Sirianni is going to be asked about it. Jalen Hurts is going to be asked about it. A.J. Brown's going to be asked. Everybody on the team's going to be asked about it. They all have to answer the questions. And while not BG's intent, this ain't good, brother. Good morning. How are you?
Yeah, good morning to you as well. And listen, here's the thing. It may not be all flowers and sunshines and rainbows with the two of them. It may not be. Here's the reality of the situation. You do not have to be best friends with your coworkers, even the ones that you feel like you're close with. You don't always have to be best friends with your coworkers. I understand that this has been stoked more than it needed to be. But I will say this, your work environment needs to be a comfortable one. It needs to be one that you feel good in, but it doesn't have to be friends to the extent of what we've talked about in the past where A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts were definitively, best buddies. And they were for a long time. And maybe they're not now. Maybe they have had work differences that have spilled into their personal lives. Maybe they feel comfortable in their friendship, so much so that they're able to criticize or call out each other on the professional side of things without it impacting their personal relationship. Whatever the case may be, I think that this is a situation of, as long as your professional environment doesn't get affected, then I think that this is being really kind of blown out of proportion by a lot of us because of the fact that Brandon Graham doubled down on the rumors and the hearsay and the reports of, and maybe not even hearsay, maybe the things that A.J. Brown, the one-word answers and whatnot, with passing and things like that. I think that if this team still plays as a functioning team and they're winning football games and they make it to the playoffs like they have, they're going to the playoffs, they win the division like we expect them to, they're a high seed like we expect them to, I think this is going to get more, the further we distance ourselves from this, the more we're going to maybe forget about this.
They have to win.
Assuming that they play the way that the standard that they should.
Tyler, they have to win. The passing offense needs to get better. If they get a loss, this could spiral out of control quickly.
I mean, it certainly could, but I don't necessarily believe that they absolutely have to win on Sunday. They're playing a very good football team in the Pittsburgh Steelers, a really good defense, one that's been holding teams to 21 and under for a bulk of the season. It's an offense that has been much better since Russell Wilson has stepped in. He's played really well. They might be without George Pickens. They might be without TJ Watt. Like, you should feel like you are competitive in this game. But if you lose this game to Pittsburgh, assuming there is not some,
is it more important? Is it more important that the offense performs well, the passing offense performs well, than 3 days ago in the game?
Do they win the game?
Then on Saturday. I'm just saying, you're right. They lose the game, the season's not over. It's how they respond to that game. But you would agree that now there's a different feel and a different look for the game.
Yeah,
based on what's happened in the last 48
I guess probably
hours.
Internally there may be, and I guess externally there probably is for fans as well. I think, again, if you win this game, and like last year we've talked about it, like there were cracks in the foundation along the way. There were very staple wins, good win against the Chiefs, great win against the Bills. But like there were at times, like the Jets game was, you went, oh my, wait, what's happening here? And then there were some wins where they were close and they shouldn't have been close. This team, with the exception of last week, who Carolina played them hard for 60 minutes and they gave them every punch they possibly could throw, and the Eagles were just better at the end of the day. This is a team that last week, we talked about it yesterday, went and clobbered Baltimore. And there was a one-score game at the end of the game because they scored that late touchdown. This is a team that a couple weeks ago went and pretty much definitively beat Washington. Again, another one-score game because of the fact that Washington scored with seconds to go. Really was a much more lopsided game than it felt. This is a really, really good football team that I think as long as they continue to win games, personal and professional can be separate, and I think that they will remain that way, assuming that they're continuing to win football games. And I'm not saying they have to win this weekend. I'm saying in totality, if they win the division like we expect, if they win a couple playoff games like they should because of their talent level, I don't think this is as big of a deal as we're making it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, listen, one of the more one of the he's probably gonna have his number retired. Just went on his radio show and said that Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown don't like each other. Like, whether or not it means they don't win the Super Bowl or not is fine, but let's not act like that's not a big deal. It's a big deal. Give me a comp when that's ever happened, where the Super Bowl winning quarterback and wide receiver by an all-time franchise player has said, like, yeah, they don't like each other. After A.J. Brown went out in the media after the game and more or less threw Jalen Hurts under the bus. Right? This is a big deal, man. This is a really big deal. In 3 weeks is a big deal? Who knows?
This is an 11-2 football team. They are
Tyler,
on the doorstep of winning the division.
They were a 10-1 football team last year, and they had a historic collapse.
Much different scenario, I believe, with the way that this team is played. Right? You brought up the X's and O's portion of it. The way that this team is played has been significantly better. And I'm not disagreeing. Jalen Hurts did not play particularly well on Sunday, right? He had 100 and some odd yards, and we talked about it. It was a low possession game where, it's hard to rack up stats when you don't have possessions. But I'm not excusing Jalen Hurts having a lot of time in the pocket and making some poor decisions, having a lot of time in the pocket and missing A.J. Brown, having we talked about the time to throw was 3.47 seconds. It was the most in the league by a lot this past weekend. He wasn't good. I'm not denying that at all. But I think that this is a situation where, you're 11-2. If you finish the year 13-4 or 14-3, like I think most of us expect them to, I'm not so sure that this is nearly as dramatic as we want to make it out to be. Like, this weekend to me is not a must win. It would be great to beat Pittsburgh. It would show you
can't lose. Or
no, I don't think so. It's an AFC game.
Just kidding. All right,
right. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying. It may not matter. It may not matter. They might be fine.
You know what I mean? And if they lose to Pittsburgh, they lose to Pittsburgh this weekend, who is an awesome team. I think the Eagles are better than Pittsburgh, but they're a very good team. They're clearly playing well. Russell Wilson, we talked about, defense is good, blah, blah, blah. If they lose to Pittsburgh, but next week they come back out and win next week, and they beat Washington when they need to beat Washington, and they secure the division,
well, sure.
I think, again, we're going to distance ourselves from this thing.
Well, sure. But Brandon Grant said this 14 hours ago. So, yeah, after A.J. Brown came in after the game, and he, that was the biggest story yesterday. Biggest story yesterday wasn't they won. It was that the offense, that they struggled, that the passing offense sucked again. And A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith after the game were pissed about it. Coming up, so what is going on with the passing offense? What is going on with the offense? We're going to bring on our ace, Fran Duffy. All right? He's in a dark room for hours, days sometimes, with a film projector, coffee, and cigarettes. He doesn't come out until he has the answers. Well, he's got the answers. What's going on with the Eagles offense? PHLY Eagles analyst Fran Duffy tells us next on Philly with John Marks. Hey, man, don't go anywhere. All right, we're back. What's up? C-Jam. Is C-Jam on there this morning? Always a loyal viewer of Philly with John Marks. Family-owned, home remodeler, specializing in decks, bathrooms, and flooring. They give their clients what they need, whether you're looking for a deck, a bathroom, or a flooring, and they do everything, right? If you've had challenges and frustrations that come with home remodeling before, well, that's why you go to C-Jam. They do everything. There's not a bunch of subcontractors coming in the house, and it's like, oh, we have this guy coming in. Nope, they do everything from start to finish, and right now, they're doing something pretty cool. They have a giveaway benefiting Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. Right now through the 20th, so you have another 10 days, online raffle for a chance to win a Yeti cooler and a Kelly Green Saquon Barkley jersey. All proceeds from the raffle will go towards Chop Online Toy Drive. Raffle tickets, $10 a piece. You can buy as many as you want. Winner announced December 21st. People can enter by going to CJAM, that's the letter C, JAM Construction.com/toy drive, CJAM Construction/toy drive. And listen, if you're interested in a new deck, bathroom, flooring, other remodeling to your home, call them Mention PHLY. How about a 15% off? That's right, 15% off discount. 856-329-2933. You can see everything they do, all their products and warranties, everything else. cjamconstruction.com. That is cjamconstruction.com. All right, let's talk about Bet Parks for a second. Who do you like? Who do you like coming up on Sunday? You like the Birds? You like the Berg? It's a pretty cool game. The battle for Pennsylvania. But there's a ton going on with Bet Parks, right? I can't wait. Tyler and I talk about it a lot with the college football playoff, right? And it's like a great year to get involved because it's really wide open. So if you want to wager on Ohio State, $25 wager, $118. $25 wager on Penn State, $118.75. You must be 21 and in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Ohio for the Bet Parks Sportsbook and online casino app. This is the perfect time to bet futures on the Bet Parks Sportsbook and online casino app. Pro and college football headed down the home stretch. Check it out right now. BetParks.com has terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. With the Bet Parks app, there's always another way to win. All right. Well, there you go. We'll talk to Fran coming up here in a second. Is he there? Fran Duffy from PHLY Eagles. He's going to be our draft analyst. You weren't with us with the draft last year, Fran, but I can't wait to see what you're doing across all of our cities in the draft this year. How much time do you spend looking at college? How much time do you spend looking at pros right now in your schedule?
I'm literally right now watching Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord. It's right now. I'm like I'm all over the place. Yesterday was obviously heavy Eagles film day. Once I get into Tuesday and Wednesday, it's a little bit more college, and then I'll do my last study of the Pittsburgh Steelers on Wednesday afternoon. But it's probably about 50-50, maybe a little bit 60-40 by the time I get to December in tilting in favor of college. But it's 50-50 for most of the year.
Yeah, I can't. After the season, hopefully the Eagles win a Super Bowl. Then we go to free agency and the draft, and I can't wait to see what happens with this draft because there's not a, you have Shedeur Sanders, and like the quarterbacks at the top of the draft, Cam Ward, aren't necessarily guys that you're like, oh yeah, I want him to be my quarterback. It'll be interesting to see how the top of the board plays out. All right, so the passing offense obviously has been a struggle. I know that you've went in. I saw a lot of your videos and your analysis from this past week and from some previous weeks. What are you seeing? Why is the passing offense struggling? And do you see this as a big problem for this team?
Yeah, it's definitely a problem right now. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be a problem for the foreseeable future, that he can't get out of this funk. But Jalen Hurts right now is just not playing particularly well. And so the offensive staff's reaction to that, their solution for that, is streamlining the pass game. Hey, we're going to strip it down. We're going to do a lot of play action, a lot of RPOs, simplify the reads that way, and really try and open things up as you get into a game against the Carolina Panthers, an inferior opponent. Because what we saw, look, last week against the Baltimore Ravens, he completed 2 passes, John, that weren't play action and RPO. It was those were the only 2 passes in the game where he didn't do it. Now, they got into this game against Carolina. They opened things up a little bit more vertical concepts. And again, just Jalen did not play well. Look, he took care of the football. You and I think the last time we may have spoken was after maybe the Atlanta game. And at that point, Jalen was kind of in the throes of, turning the ball over. He had a couple turnovers in each of those games. And I remember kind of defending his play at that time. I was like, look, yes, the turnovers are bad, but overall, I like the process. I like the way that he's playing. Right now, he's kind of gone back in the other direction where, John, over the last month, 2.2% of his throws have gone 20-plus yards down the field, which is like very anti-Jalen. That is not the way that Jalen has made his bread in this league. And so I think when you look at the way that he's playing right now, a lot of people will say, oh, well, is he scared? Is he scared to turn the ball over? Are they overcoaching that? No one can answer that except for Jalen, right? I think that me trying to sit here as I'm watching film with my clicker, with a Coke in my hand, and watching, I can't put that on him. I can't define the why, but I can say right now, like, he's not pushing the ball down the field. He's the processing is very inconsistent. Sometimes he's too fast through his reads. Sometimes he's too slow through those reads, and it's just leading to a lot of inconsistency right now in his game.
Yeah, I like you. I saw, and you probably put some of these videos out, but there's a number of plays each game that he's missing wide open receivers. You may have heard AJ Brown isn't very happy with the passing offense at this point. So I kind of said this yesterday that there's got to be two reasons why he's doing it. A, he's not seeing the field well and he's not seeing the receivers, or B, he doesn't want to make a mistake and he has the yips a little bit because he doesn't want to throw an interception. You had mentioned earlier, he was terrible protecting the ball earlier this season, but he was better throwing the ball, right? And now he's bad throwing the ball, but he's not turning the ball over. So, and maybe it's a little bit of both. But when we go back to last year, when they started the struggle, it was after the San Francisco game. If you remember, Bosa came out after the game and said, well, I hope the Cowboys are paying attention. If you rush Jalen Hurts and you pressure him up the middle, he's looking at the rush. He's not looking downfield. That's concerning that he's not seeing the field and he's looking at the rush. I wonder if that's starting to creep back into him to where he's more concerned with what's going on in front of him than actually going through his progressions, looking down the field, because there's guys that are open, man, and he's just missing them. And there are opportunities for big plays. And when your passing offense is struggling, you can't miss out on those opportunities.
Honestly, if I felt like the pressure was the problem, I would almost feel better about it because I was like, all right, let me fix the pressure, and hopefully you fix the issue. But right now, I mean, I was looking at some numbers last night for a piece that will be dropping on allphly.com here this morning, and Jalen Hurts over the last month, quick pressure, which is a pressure that's in the first 2.5 seconds of a down, only 3.7% of his drops. That's like right at the top of the league. That offensive line is really holding up well in protection. His average time to pressure was the slowest of any quarterback in football this week. They blitzed him a ton. Carolina sent a lot of rushers. The protection held up really, really well. To your point, I think there are times where he does square up to the line of scrimmage. He does drop his eyes a little, but I think the big thing, a lot of people will point to the fact that he holds on to the ball too long. And he said like, the average time to throw, he holds on to it. He holds on. That alone is not like this. That's not a huge issue. When you look at who are the top quarterbacks that hold on to the football, I mean, it's Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. I'm going down the list. Geno Smith, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love's on that list. Joe Burrow's on that list. Like all those guys are in the top 10 in terms of how long they hold on to the football. The issue right now is that he's holding onto the football, but he's not really taking any chances. He's not pushing the football down the field. He's not taking those chunk plays. All those other guys. I mean, that's why I noted right as the game ended, right as we were getting ready to go into the post-game show, he had a 5.3 air yards per attempt on Sunday. Like that, to me, like if you are going to hold on to the football really, really long and you're not pushing it down the field, to me, that paints a picture of a quarterback that just does not trust what he's seeing for whatever reason. And maybe that is the concepts. Maybe they need to do a better job from that standpoint. To me, there were open receivers in this game, and it started on the very first drop back of the game. He had AJ Brown working down the field on a deep corner route on a play that honestly, like he was too fast through the progression on that play. You go 2 plays later, the first third down, he was too slow to go to and it ended up being a PBU targeting Jahan Dotson on a hitch route past the stick. So I think when you look at it, he's in a funk right now. He's got to work through it. I was talking with yesterday with Anthony, and I said, look, it's just like if Bryce Harper is going 1 for 18 over a 3-game stretch, over a 4-game stretch. He's got to work through it, and he's got to work through it fast. They've got a few games left here. They've got a great defense. This is honestly the best defense they've faced all season long. The one they're going to face here on Sunday against Pittsburgh. And after that, like you've got this stretch of games here going into the postseason against these divisional foes. Hopefully they can work out some of these kinks in the pass game.
Yeah, Jordan Mailata, and I think this quote was what wasn't played enough, where he talked about how they struggle early because teams are coming out and they're giving them different looks. Defenses are giving the offense different looks, and they're more or less dictating the game to the Eagles. So you wonder if maybe the solution here is you pump up all week like, hey, listen, we're coming out, we're going to throw the ball. Or like Saquon Barkley's obviously, their offense runs through them, and that's fine. You got to get these guys going again. And, man, it's you can make it through this weekend against the Steelers without totally shooting their confidence. You got the Commanders, the Cowboys, and the Giants. And maybe that's when you can get them going, get this passing offense going. But it's as good as this team's been and as good as the defense has been and Saquon Barkley and everything else, it's difficult for me to believe that if they're passing the ball at this rate that they're going to have success in the playoffs. You agree?
Yeah, I mean, he can't play the way that he played Sunday. Now, this comes off a week against, I mentioned the game against Baltimore, where, yeah, it was a ton of play action, a ton of RPOs. They didn't ask him to do a ton, and from a pure drop back standpoint in that game where he had to read through it and go through progressions and things of that nature. That said, there were a couple of plays where it's like, all right, like if there are 4 examples of those plays in a given game, if you can make plays on 2 or 3 of them, and that includes scrambles in those plays, if you can make plays on 2 or 3, I think they can get by. You can do enough there to certainly make a run and go into the playoffs, and then you start to see if you can get hot. I think at the end of the day, you just can't have what it was this past week. Those explosive plays have to come with this offense, with this passing game. We know what you have in the run game. You know that this defense is capable of being one of the best in the league. What you need is, especially considering the fact that, I mean, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are 2 of the 11 highest paid receivers in football. You've got to be able to leverage those guys. You've got to be able to lean into that talent. And right now, they're just not getting the most out of those guys at his disposal.
The defense, Carolina, I think they only scored 16 points, right? But it also, like, Carolina controlled the clock. They were able to run the ball, not at a great clip, but Chuba Hubbard.
Yep.
Their performance and like they've been pretty much dominant all year, but now you start to worry about some adjustments being made. But overall, how was their performance against Carolina when you looked at the film?
Yeah, I thought that it was one of those games where it clearly wasn't their best effort, but not anything to be like overly alarmed with. I think overall, Bryce Young did a great job in this game of creating and eluding the rush. They were able to get a lot of pressure on him, and he was just able to escape. I mean, only 1 sack on nearly 30 pressures is a really impressive number. Compare that to Jalen Hurts, and it was 4 sacks on 9 pressures in the game, right? So in terms of Bryce Young's ability to kind of extend those plays and find guys down the field, he did a great job. Adam Thielen's a tough matchup for a young DB and Cooper DeJean just because of his route running skill and his ability to kind of get open in that way. So DeJean, I think, could take a couple of things from that game. But overall, I think that you mentioned the run defense. Chuba Hubbard, it was a bunch of like 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and it did enough to just keep them on schedule and make it so that they were able to stay balanced, keep the Eagles honest defensively, and they were able to just kind of matriculate the football down the field. And then you had some Bryce Young magic at the end of the game where he's able to make some of those plays in extension late in the down. So overall, not overly alarmed with the defensive performance. We know what this group brings to the table.
Yeah, my takeaways from the Carolina perspective is I was very impressed with Bryce Young, especially on that last drive. He made some really, really big plays. His escapability is good. He actually looks like maybe he can play, and Carolina doesn't have to draft a quarterback. And the Eagles could desperately now they need to throw him the ball, but the Eagles could desperately use a real slot receiver. Adam Thielen was great. He really was. So it's like it's kind of a glaring hole right now. I guess he wanted Dotson to be that guy, and he really hasn't been. But man, like like Bryce Young looks like he can play a little bit. It was good to see. All right, last thing, Fran, you come to PHLY from working for the Phil. How many years you work for the Eagles?
I should know this off the top of my head. You would think
12?
14 years.
I know it's a long time. So working for the Eagles, have you heard behind the scenes? Because obviously the big story today, the big story yesterday was AJ's comments and the passing offense being terrible. The big story today is BG more or less confirming that AJ Brown and Jalen Hurts aren't friendly and they're not on great terms. Anything that you heard behind the scenes that could add to the conversation to what BG said last night? Did you hear anything when you were inside the building?
No, I think that look, it's always one of those things with players where it's never as good and it's never as bad. So I think that when BG spoke last night, obviously look, there's something there. Where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't think that this is like Red Alert 2005 Terrell Owens, Donovan McNabb style of an inflammatory relationship, right? Like I don't think that we're at that level would be my guess. But I mean, look, it's very clear when you see AJ Brown's comments and you see how those guys were on the sideline that there's some friction there that they've got to be able to work through, and I think BG kind of spoke to that where those guys just they have to iron that out, and so ultimately I think that to me, like hearing that from BG in that moment, like he's not just going to kind of shoot off. I think that to me, like that speaks for itself.
What's your schedule today? What are you doing? Are you on PHLY? Are you just buried in the film room all day? What do you got?
Do some college film this morning, and then I'm on the PHLY Eagles show. Myself, Bo Wolf, Zach Berman will be up at 2:00.
Awesome. Thanks, Franny. We'll talk soon.
Appreciate it, John.
All right, there he is, Fran Duffy, the best in the business. Yeah, T.O., did you see this, Tyler? T.O. got involved in the conversation. So Donovan goes on. Donovan has a weekly day after the game spot on the afternoon show with Spike, Ike, and Jack. I had Donovan on. He was on with me a couple years. And so he obviously is talking about AJ and Jalen, and he's got the personal experience from it. So, like everything then kind of goes back to him and T.O. But still, like as a quarterback, he's got his opinions. So now T.O. is retweeting the WIP tweet from what Donovan had said on the air. And, now he's making it about himself. So, oh, man, this is fun. Brings back old times. This team, man. Even when they win, they're 11-2. And look what we're talking about. We're not talking about – we're talking about the locker room, man. Not the game. Not the game. Yeah, like I think that – and Fran said there at the end, I don't think this is T.O. Donovan stuff. I think that remember when AJ came to the Eagles, him and Jalen were best friends. They both said it, and it's pretty clear that their relationship has deteriorated. But like, who cares? That happens in regular life. That maybe they're not as close. Maybe something happened. I don't know. It doesn't mean that this can't work. And if you have success, diva wide receivers, brother. It's like the position on the team where guys just have a certain personality. I don't know what it is, but that's what it is. Deebo Samuel was unhappy this week. Malik Neighbors is throwing teammates and the quarterbacks under the bus. Like these really, really good wide receivers, this is what they do. If they're not getting the ball and the team's not having success, they're unhappy. So A.J. Brown's not happy. Devontae Smith's not happy. Here's how you fix it. Figure out the friggin' passing offense. And Jalen knows it. He said it after the game. Jalen's not stupid. He knows that they need to be better. I just hope they know how to make it better. It's just confusing, man. In 2022, when they went to the Super Bowl, you saw him make real progress. And I mean, is it this just he's being countered by defensive coordinators? And Tyler, I don't know why, but like. You saw progress in 2022. It's like he got a contract from it. And it's like, all right, he's a dual threat. And now it feels like that you're managing Jalen Hurts because he really can't throw the ball. I don't know, man. It's frustrating. We'll come back. So we didn't even do the headline segment. But we'll get to the Phillies conversation coming up next because they signed a closer yesterday, or at least a back-end bullpen guy. Tyler gives us the latest on that. Also, a new voice to the Phillies broadcast booth, as Jim Salisbury reported on the show yesterday. How about this? Who is it, and is it a good idea? We'll find out. That's all coming up next on Philly with John Marks. Don't go anywhere. All right, listen. Let's talk about Game Time. All right, the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. Filter incredible deals on great seats with Game Time picks. View from your seat right on your phone before you buy it so you know. All-in pricing shows you the total cost up front. Nothing more frustrating than when you're buying tickets and it's like, oh, that's not too bad. And then you go to check out. It's like, hang on a second, that's $75 more. Happens to all of us, right? They don't do that at Game Time. All right, they also show you great deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And there's so many ways to save money no matter when you buy. Game Time picks show you the best values on tickets, last-minute deals, exclusive flash deals, and sponsored deals for tickets, football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And they'll guarantee you always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time credits you 100%, 110% of the difference. How about that? Job assurance. So if you lose your job, you need a refund, Game Time has you covered. Event cancellation protection, full refunds, 24-hour return guarantee. You can return your tickets within 24 hours from time of purchase for a full credit. That's right. No questions asked. We love our fans. They love you. All right. They're committed to ensuring you have an outstanding experience when you buy from Game Time. On-time ticket delivery. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Check this out. Use code Philly or use code PHLY for 20% off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code PHLY. 20% off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today. Let's talk about Glad hair restoration for a second. Hair's looking good, starting to get a little bit too much. I gotta actually a week from today, I'm getting my hair cut, so I'm trying to make it last. Need the freshie for the holiday at Razor Bar. But anyway, if you don't like the way your hair looks, if you're constantly changing the way that it's styled, if you're like you're getting the way you cut your hair differently, you shave your head, if it's something you think about, then you should definitely check out Glad Hair Restoration. I've been with Glad Hair. I've known the hair team for years. I believe it's 13 years now. And they're the experts in the industry, 30 plus years of industry experience. Hair restoration is all they do. And now under the direction of Dr. Ken Morgenstern, a highly respected plastic surgeon. So you're getting the same approach, the same expert team, the same expert care, and you're getting the best in the business. And this is all stages of hair loss. You don't need to be completely bald. You can just maybe be like, hey, I'm really starting to lose my hair. There's hair restoration surgery. There's also topical and oral medications, vitamin supplementation, which works very effectively, non-invasive TED treatments, and PRP and stem cell restoration. Each patient receives a complimentary one-on-one consultation to pinpoint the best course of treatment. So you call 610-980-4000. You speak to their hair team, 610-980-4000. They're going to be your advocate. They're going to work with you from the first phone call to the last follow-up visit to give you what you need, right? They're not just going to say, hey, Bob, nice to meet you. You need hair restoration surgery. It's not the way it works. They're going to tell you exactly what they think you need. 610-980-4000 or glathairmctr.com. GLAT hair, mctr.com. All right, there we go. It's interesting. Juan Soto signs, and now I think you're going to start to see a bunch of moves happen in the market. Philly signed a closer yesterday. Let's actually get to Tyler. We didn't get to our headlines earlier in the show, but let's get to some headlines right now because we do have a lot going on, including with the Phillies. Tyler, go ahead.
So as you just brought up with our friends at Glad, our headlines are brought to you by Glad Hair Restoration because it's not just about restoration, but it's about innovation as well. And if you want to start your journey with Glad Hair Restoration, all you got to do is call 610-980-4000 or glathairmctr.com. You bring up some of the signings. Well, the Phillies did reportedly sign a back end of the bullpen relief pitcher in Jordan Romano. And I think a lot of people may be up in arms at the numbers of last year because it was a injury-plagued season for Romano, who only made 15 appearances, did not pitch particularly well in those 15 appearances, had a 6.59 ERA. However, in the 3 years prior, he appeared in over 180 games, had a sub-3 ERA in each of those 3 seasons, was twice an all-star for the Toronto Blue Jays, 23 or more saves in 3 consecutive years, including back-to-back 36 save seasons. The Blue Jays non-tendered Romano at the end of the season, making him a free agent. The Phillies got him for about what his arbitration estimate was going to be. They got him for about $7.75 million with some incentives and things like that in there. I think it can get up to about 8.5 if he reaches all of those incentive plateaus. But, John, this seems to me like a one-year deal. We talk about it on the Philly Show a lot. There's really not too many bad one-year deals because you get out of it at the end of the year or you just release the guy if he's not playing well. But it seems to me like a move that if the Phillies can capitalize on the past success of Jordan Romano, if his elbow is healthy, this could end up being a pretty good move.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if this means that. I mean, it certainly means hot. Like, because a lot of people, I saw a lot of fans in the offseason saying, "Oh, we have to bring back Estevez and Hoffman." Then I feel like Hoffman's good as gone. Being that, like,
I think Hoffman's just going to get paid a lot,
right?
And I'm not sure the Phillies are going to be comfortable going up into the $12, $13 million a year range for him.
Agreed.
Plus, I don't know if they want to make him a starter, and he seems to have that trajectory of wanting to potentially start again.
Yeah, I mean, and it's about money. So if there's a team, you look at the Clay Holmes contract. If Hoffman's able to get more money because they're like, hey, you could be a starter. So Romano, you mentioned last year, Tyler, where he was not good. he had elbow issues from Jump Street.
Yep.
And then finally they said, okay, you need to have surgery. And he didn't pitch for the rest of the season. But before that, the 3 years prior, he saved 95 games. He was an all-star 2 years. He had a 2.37 ERA from 2021 to 2023. He struck out over 30% of the batters that he faced. And he gave up, his walk rate was 9%, ground ball rate 42% of balls in play. So he actually, if his stuff's there, he plays very well for this ballpark. He a lot of ground, like good amount of ground balls, a lot of swings and misses. The thing that you worry about, and I saw some Blue Jays people saying this, they think that he's shot.
He might be cooked. There's a potential that he is. Sometimes you just don't bounce back from those type of elbow injuries, especially when they're lingering long-term elbow injuries like, over the course of last season was. There's a possibility that he's got nothing left, and you're saying by May, like, get this dude off the roster. That's always a possibility with these one-year deals. I think there is a low floor, high ceiling. But to me, it is a low-risk, high-reward type of move.
Yeah, I agree.
If you get to June and he's not pitching well and you have to eat $3.5–4 million, they'll do it. They did it with Whit Merrifield. They'll do it if they have to eat the money and they can't find a suitor for him. But the inverse could be, I'm not expecting, I don't know if he's the everyday closer, the de facto closer or not, but you've got a guy who with good stuff, a pretty premium fastball prior to the injury, and, you could end up with a potential 1-year steal.
I love the deal. I just hope that they have another major move in the bullpen.
Now that's the thing. This can't be the only move.
No.
There needs to be another arm added. I think there needs to be another arm added, period. I think you needed 2 to begin with. Whether that was a combination of Hoffman, Estevez, and somebody else, or two separate guys entirely, I think they need another arm, period. And to me, I probably would lean bringing in another right-hander.
So do you wait out the Estevez market and see what
probably.
Is it? And then maybe you sign him, or you sign a comparable guy.
I will say this. I think if you ask me right now, who has a better chance of returning to the Phillies, Estevez or Hoffman? The answer is Estevez.
I agree. To me, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like that Hoffman is going to price himself out. I don't want to get too in the weeds with salary, but
he's either going to get paid like a starter or get premier back end of the bullpen money, and I don't think the Phillies are willing to give out either of those.
Doesn't feel
price
like
points.
It. There's probably and maybe Romano's one of them, but there's probably another guy that's like it's a 1-year deal and it's all upside.
So
and
not to that extent of the money, but the guy that I've pinpointed in that exact scenario for a while now is Jonathan Loaizaga.
Right.
I've been on Loaizaga for a while now. I think another guy that I would like, I don't know what he's going to cost in the free agent market, is Jimmy Garcia, who was also with Toronto. Right. I would love to see what he's got left. He was not very good in Seattle after Toronto moved him, but he was very, very good in the 2 years prior in Toronto. I don't know. I think that there's definitely guys like that to be signed. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to pay.
I just hope Dombrowski knows what he's doing, because like if you're looking to counter, everybody's up in arms because the Mets got Soto. Well, that means you better have good starting pitching. And I mean, the counter to all these offensive teams like the Dodgers and the Mets, your starters and your bullpen got to be locked down. I mean, I know the offense sucked last year in the playoffs. The bullpen totally imploded. That series looks different if the bullpen. I mean, really, it's happened the last couple of years in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly say that, but I think when you have a team that hits 186 in the postseason, you're not going to win many games, right? Yeah, I mean, the bullpen wasn't good, but it would go back to that scenario where Rob Thompson runs out his three guys, the 3 guys that he relied upon all year to get high leverage outs between Hoffman, Strahm, and Kerkering, and nobody got any outs. So I mean, there's only so much you can do in that scenario, and I get it. If
Estevez gives up a grand slam, right?
Yeah, so sure, you're probably right. If they don't give up 10 runs in 2 games or 3 runs or 3 games or whatever it was,
series anyway.
Maybe. But if the offense is anemic the way that it is, I know that a lot of people are not. Like Barbara Carroll was just in the chat saying they're not huge Estevez fans. Hard hit rate is pretty high. Gives up a lot of hard contact. Throws hard. Throws a lot of strikes. But I'm curious to see if they value somebody who maybe keeps the ball on the ground a little bit more, like a Jordan Romano, than Estevez did.
Yeah, I'm fine with bringing in other arms, but he's got he's got to be right. I mean, the margin for error here feels like it's a little bit less. They still have a couple of good arms. Alvarado, bringing up Alvarado, like, what are you getting from him this year? Is he Alvarado of 2 years ago? Is he Alvarado of 3 or last year? Right? Like, I don't know, man.
Well,
it's tough.
Like, one of the names that I've heard a lot get brought up is Kyle Finnegan, who, numerically speaking, and this is like do you look at the advanced stuff or do you look at just like your eye test tell you, like, Kyle Finnegan gets outs, right? He's appeared in 65 or more games 3 consecutive years. He also is in the first percentile in average exit velocity. He's also in the second percentile in hard hit percentage. Like, if you don't like Estevez, the same things apply to Finnegan, right? Great fastball, throws a lot of strikes.
Right.
Well, throws some strikes. His walk percentage is okay, but like, he gives up a ton of hard contact. So it really depends on what kind of arm they're looking for. Do they want the power arm? Then you may see a guy like that back. Do they want somebody who is, a little more established and keeping the ball down and keeping the hard hit percentage low?
Right.
I don't know.
One other Phillies note, just wanted to mention here, Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic reported that the New York teams are currently the most aggressive for Garrett Crochet and would be the kind of the leaders in the clubhouse right now.
Yeah, one team, by the way, we talked about this on the Philly show. One team not to rule out, I think, in this conversation is the Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, it's all the same thing.
I think they might be players in this sweepstakes as well and willing to give up some of their young prospects.
Red Sox and Phillies obviously are still interested. John Morosi put the Brewers on Crochet as well. So I really want him. The Phillies aren't going to give up. It seems like they'll give up Crawford. They're not going to give up Aiden Miller, which, all right, like, I hope he's worth it, because this is a guy that gives you high upside, and he's younger, and he can kind of usher Zach Wheeler into being the number 2 maybe in a year or two. They better be right, but I will be. Juan Soto not going to a New York team had no effect on me, because I knew that was going to happen. Losing Crochet to the Mets or the Yankees especially the Mets, would really be salt in my wound.
Well, I think that there's definitive merit to take a look at not just this year, because Crochet helps you this season, but he's young. He still has 2 years of arbitration before he needs a contract. Now, We've talked about it, like, he probably will. They're going to come armed saying, hey, we'll offer you this deal, this 5-year deal or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, they try to extend him.
But I think there's merit to say, hey, think about 2025 and be like 2025 specifically, or 2026, excuse me, the 2026 season, when Andrew Painter likely will be in the rotation from day one. You could theoretically have a rotation that slots Zach Wheeler, Garrett Crochet, Aaron Nola, Andrew Painter, and Christopher Sanchez. It's a hell of a rotation,
Man,
John.
You're not kidding.
It's a hell of a rotation.
Yeah, I think and Dombrowski, obviously, you look at what he's doing, and he's trying to set his rotation not just for this year, but in previous years. But there's still time out there. They're still the White Sox are hanging on to him. He's going to get traded, but I don't know where it's going to be. So hopefully they were able to make the deal happen.
Yeah, real quick, we got a lot to get into. We'll do it pretty briefly. We brought up Cincinnati. Let's go to the Bengals. They beat the Dallas Cowboys last night on Monday Night Football, 27-20, in a interesting blocked punt. John helps the Bengals win the game, where the punt gets blocked, and then it's picked up by Cincinnati, and then they go on and score, and then Dallas has possession, and nothing comes of it, and the Bengals improve to 5-8. The Cowboys fall to 5-8. Jamar Chase, 14 catches, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, 6 for 93 and a score. So combined, these two premier number 1 receivers, 20 catches for 270 yards and 3 scores.
Did you see how I was watching the game? So Dallas loses they block a punt, and a punt gets blocked, and they're able, and they like recover the ball, but they just touch it. I didn't know the rule was like this, and it enables the Bengals to get the ball back. Let me bring up. I didn't even know how much time was left in the game at that point, because I was like doing stuff, but it ends up screwing them. It was a botched punt. Let me see here. Cowboys were about to get the ball back. They block the punt. The Cowboy blocks the punt, but then a backup corner touches the ball as it's bouncing down the field. Once he touches it, then the Bengals can recover and
Becomes
get
a
the
live
ball back.
right?
And they get the ball. It's a live ball. They get the ball back.
Yep.
So like, I mean, I don't know. Like, just because he touched the ball on a blocked punt, that enables the Cowboys to get the ball back. I don't know, man. It's just a bad rule. But I mean, it was good that Micah Parsons was so mad after the game that they lost on a blocked punt. But anyway, yeah, the Bengals get a win. Jamar Chase is unbelievable. That was a fun game to watch. Also, Chase Brown, man. They have Cincinnati has a really, really good offense. They're 5-8. I don't know, like, are they getting a new head coach in the offseason or what? And anything else with the headlines there, Tyler?
Yeah,
I mean, Sixers are off for 3 weeks.
Yeah, Sixers don't play until Friday because they didn't get into the NBA Cup playoffs, if you will, and they begin tonight with the 8 teams that are remaining. Flyers back at it tonight as well. Well, they will be back at it tonight, as they go to Columbus to take on the Blue Jackets. 2 teams with almost identical records. Flyers 12-12-4, Columbus 12-12-3. So the Flyers play 3 times this week. They'll be at it tonight. They'll be home against the Red Wings on Thursday, and then in Minnesota on Saturday afternoon to take on the Wild.
Did you also see in Soto, the word out there was that the Yankees wouldn't give him his own suite for all games, and the Mets were like, "Oh no, you can have the suite for every game." So the Mets gave him a suite, and the Yankees, because they didn't give it to Judge or to, I forget who else on the team, they're like, "Well, no, we can't give you a suite." So that may have been one of the differences between the Yankees and the Mets. By the way, I just got to say this, all right? Juan Soto's a great player. Like, everybody just calm down, all right? Juan Soto doesn't make the Mets perennial NL East winners. There's a lot more that goes on than just one player joining a team, all right? And Steve Cohen's going to spend money, and that's for real. And the Mets are going to be a good team as long as they keep putting talent out there.
Yeah, I think what goes on is, like you just said, Steve Cohen isn't stopping at Juan Soto. He's going to probably bring in a upper echelon, top of the rotation starter, whether it's a Max Fried or he shoots for Corbin Burns or he trades for Crochet. They are still like $90 million under their payroll from last year because they get off the Scherzer deal, they get off the Verlander deal. They're not, Pete Alonso likely will not be back.
Yeah,
I would
a ton of money's
imagine
clearing off their books.
They're not going to pay him. There's a lot of money that comes off the Mets books this year, so they spend a ton on Soto, but they still have.
Hang on, shout out to everybody watching on TV. Get over to allphly.com to watch more of the show. Sorry, Tyler, had to cut in there for a second.
No, you're good. I mean, the reality of the situation is the Mets are going to spend a lot of money this offseason.
Yep. And the Yankees tried to buy a World Series since 2009, and they got back to one last year. So I'm not going to crown them just yet. All right. I still like this team that we have right here, and Dombrowski's got to continue to build. But I'm not crowning the Mets the NL East. Our buddy Black Gritty is on the line. He was actually on the scene last night at the Brandon Graham show at Chiggy's and Pete's. What are you doing? You were out in the streets last night, BG? Uh-oh. I don't hear you, Black Gritty. Can you hear me?
There we go.
All right. What's up,
I was being respectful and listening. I said, yeah, I was in those streets, and I wasn't the only BG that was cooking. Brandon Graham was cooking last night too. So that was extremely interesting.
So you were there. Did everybody? Because it's sometimes when you're like, if you're on the air, like sometimes you realize like, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying this. There's other times where you don't realize how big it is that he's saying. So, like, did you even know what was happening live? 'Cause it's hard to hear when you're at Chiggy's and Pete's listening to that show.
So it was really crowded, and everybody loves BG, so you're trying to listen to him, but it was really crowded. So the people I was with, I was like, did he just say that they were not friends? Like what? Because I didn't hear what he said, so I had to like wait till I reheard it. But people were groaning in the front thing, like, oh, like you heard like a bunch of people that were in the front. Those tables right in the front, they heard it clearly because it was like ooh, and I was like, okay. And then it just went on like normal because they just started getting into the conversation. So you're right, it was hard to hear, but people heard it live there last night. And he said what he said this morning to fix it. Nick is saying what he's saying. I hope that it's not an issue. I hope that everything's okay. And I lean heavily on the Godfather thing. And
there's no fixing it. You know how you fix it? You win and you stop yapping in the media. And that's for everybody. So this, Black Gritty. I worked with Brandon for 7 seasons, and he didn't have any problem coming out and saying something if he felt like it's something he should say. Now, should you use the media or should you go and say something to them personally? Yeah, I don't know if he's talking to them personally about it. I guess now he has to have the conversation. But to me, it felt like that he wanted to say that wasn't acceptable. We don't do that. You don't talk like that after the game. More or less criticizing him for using the media instead of talking to him while he was using the media to do it. And then the whole they're not friends anymore thing and things changed. I just think he got carried away and said a little bit too much. Because guess what, BG? This ain't breaking news, brother. This has been something that I've been hearing last year when they were winning games, that Jalen and AJ were not on solid ground. So for them to try to walk it back and for a lot of fans to say, oh, this is just negative Philadelphia media again, baloney. So you know what they need to do now? Everybody needs to grow up and they need to say, listen, like, the offense needs to, like, the passing offense needs to start producing. If AJ Brown has 7 receptions for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, guess what? He's not going to be complaining after the game. Start throwing the ball and executing well, not missing open receivers, and everything will be fine. And guess what, BG? If they don't do that and they continue to struggle, guess who's going to be mad after games next week and the following week? AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. They may not say anything to the media, but it doesn't mean behind the scenes they ain't going to be pissed.
And to be completely fair, I love Jalen Hurts. This was not the week to defend him. He had a poor game. I mean, if nothing else, if people like to say that the media hyper extends everything, if you listen to Duffy, all he's doing is analyzing. If you go to his page, you go to his Twitter, he's showing you the plays of things that are being missed by Jalen Hurts. So it's not like people do bash him, but we're not bashing him. We're saying he had a bad game, and you can't continue to have games like that going into this stretch, running into the playoffs, because we've seen this kind of poor play leading into the end of the season. It's not something that's sustainable for emotional standpoint, for winning standpoint, for anything. So they got to get it together.
So was he on WIP this morning, Brandon Graham?
Yes.
And what did he say this morning? Because I see Fit Delco Dad, I think that's him right there, in our comments is saying that he put Philadelphia sports media in his place. I didn't hear what he said. What did he say this morning?
So this morning he basically apologized for speaking out of turn about their friendship, and he doesn't actually know that he was just speaking from a place that he didn't have the knowledge and information.
Right.
So he brought that back, and then Nick went on the interview today, and Nick said, I see them at lunch every day. I know what's going on more than the outside knows what's going on. And again, Brandon Graham might have misspoke. He might have. But again, he's the guy who's always we're going to get it together. It's going to be okay. Positive force, driving force. So when he says something like what he said, it carries so much weight, and he can walk it back. Now they've got to go out there and show it on the field, because now it doesn't matter. You can try and put the genie back in the bottle all you want to, and everybody, when some people make mistakes, they usually apologize. I know some people aren't big into apologies, but they try to fix it and work it back. You know what I mean? So BG walked it back. He said that he misspoke. Nick came on and doubled down on the fact that they're friends, they have lunch together. Yeah. So everything's good.
Yep, everything's fine. And I mean, listen, we'll see. Jalen's going to be asked about it. AJ's going to be asked about it. I mean, the reality is if AJ doesn't come out and act like that, nobody's talking about this right now. So, and
AJ had that tweet last week that he deleted too, and when before he deactivated Twitter.
Right.
So that led into people asking him questions all week, because all week AJ's like, oh, y'all really on one a day. I just want to talk about the game. He didn't want to talk about Twitter. He's like, that's why I deactivated my Twitter. Well, it's too late. You already
but you put it out there
the way you responded. So,
right.
Like you said, smoke and fire.
And Devontae also let his frustrations be known about the passing game. Listen, wide receivers aren't just going to sit back and give the answers that they're supposed to give. That's the position where guys get frustrated when they don't get targets and they don't get yards, right? These guys, they got their contracts, so they're getting paid, but still, they're out there looking at other guys. They're watching Monday Night Football, seeing Jamar Chase run around catching 11, 12, 14 targets, and A.J. Brown's wide open in the first half, and he's not getting the ball thrown to him. So it's just, but like that position is always going to cause problems.
And I will say this, like I said, Jalen had a bad game. I can't defend him. But when they say they're not on the same page, when you go through a season and you've only had 3 games with AJ, Devontae, and Goddard on the field at the same time, because one's injured for 3 games, one's injured for 2 games, one's out for 2 games, one's out for 3 games, it is hard to get in that rhythm. Chase is out there week after week. Now, Higgins has been in and out, but Chase has been out there all season long with no pay, to be honest with you, putting his career on the line. He had to take an insurance policy out for himself. So there is that caveat. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know what's going on, but that's the only little bit of defense I can give to Jalen Hurts, because right now they got to get it together. I
saw you tweet out last night. Are you in Spike Eskin? Did he confront you last night? What has happened to my caller since I left the afternoon show, Black Gritty? Did you guys have a physical confrontation last night?
Yes. So, dude, you and I have had arguments. Me and Cuz have had battles. Ike and I, like everybody on the radio, like I've been hanged up on, like, we've argued whatever, but I've never called you out your name. You never called me out my name. We work through it. We apologize. We get back to going on and talking sports, because that's what men do. We rah, rah, rah. Spike just likes to scream at people. I'm sitting there with my friends having dinner, having drinks. I'm not even looking at the show. I'm just listening to it because, and I don't call the show anymore. But Spike starts screaming at a caller and screaming at a caller. And it got to the point where the entire bar was quiet. Waitresses stopped and looked at this man. And then he kept screaming. And I just took a picture and tweeted out. I'm like, oh, so this is what I've been missing, not watching the show. You just keep getting louder and louder and louder, like it's going to make your point better. And to be fair, his point, he was actually correct at what he was saying. It's just the fact that he was screaming like a crazy person. So I tweeted that out. And I've been to Chickies and Pete's 5 or 6 times while they've had a show. He doesn't speak to me. He's come right to the table I've been at, speak to the people I sit with, doesn't look at me, doesn't speak to me, and that's fine. I don't want to have any interaction with you. But after I sent that tweet out, he comes over and he puts his hand, I'm sitting down, he's standing over me. He puts his hand on my shoulder. I'm like, don't touch me and don't talk to me. And he's like, oh, Black Gritty, you got to listen to me. I'm like, oh, are you going to apologize to me? And he's like, this is sports radio. I don't have to apologize. I'm like, you make callers apologize. So if you don't have an apology for me for screaming at me twice, I don't need to speak to you. You're going to listen to me. And so I said, please step out of my face, because he's like standing over me, like, and I'm sitting down. So, it's already a little power play. You try to put your hand on my neck, the little hey buddy thing. And I'm like, why are you touching me? Get out of my face. And he's like, don't talk to me like that. I'm like, get out of my face. You're not going to talk to me like that. I'm like, Spike, I don't need to talk to you at all. If you don't have an apology for me, we don't need to speak. So you need to back up. And he's like, you're going to listen to me. So I literally had to say, Spike Eskin, please remove yourself from my personal space. And I screamed it loud as hell. It took me 4 times yelling that at the ceiling for this man to back up out of my space. Because again, the bar starts looking, and he had his little crony buddies there, I guess, from party days or whatever, like, is that Yoshi over there yelling at? We love Yoshi. He's like, this isn't Yoshi. Yoshi's a cool guy. This guy isn't cool. And I'm like, just get out of my space. Don't talk to me and go away. Boy. And he went to the bathroom and cried about it. And then Ike's mad at me.
Listen, so, and I need to mediate, because I'm obviously I'm close with Spike, and you're my boy. I hate to see you two fighting like this. You guys need, you don't need to be friends, but just like Jalen and AJ, you guys are like Jalen and AJ. You can't be fighting like this. You're too important to the sports media.
You can't touch someone. You can't get in their face when they ask you not to talk to them. It's really simple for me. I don't call the show, Johnny Marks. I don't want to have a problem. I've sat there for 5 of his shows. I don't boo the man. I don't say nothing. But when you come in my space, what do you want from me, bro? Like, he does that off-channel stuff. He texts callers off air and says, why did you say that about me? And he calls them off air. He thinks he's still a program director. That's weird behavior, bro. Like, be an adult and apologize. You make other people apologize to you on air. And all I asked you to do was apologize for screaming at me for something I didn't do. You can't do it, then we can't talk. It's real simple, Johnny Marks. I like accountability. I like the rules.
All right. Black Gritty, go take a shower. Calm down, man. All right.
I'm going to sleep. I'm back taking a nap. I woke up for
take
you,
a nap.
baby.
All right,
Go
brother.
Birds! Fix
There
it.
he is.
Everybody fix it.
Black Gritty and Spike Eskin with a confrontation at Chickies and Pete's before Brandon Graham says that A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts aren't friends. All right, thank you. We ran a little bit late. Coming up, switch over to Ant. He's obviously talking about all this stuff right here. Philly show 11 o'clock today. Tyler?
Yeah. We'll talk to Jim Salisbury. He's down in Dallas. We'll talk to him. Talk a little Jordan Romano. Do all of it. We got a lot to talk about.
All right, man. Thanks
hot stove's on a simmer right now for the Phillies.
But you know what? That sauce is going to explode when you keep it on the high heat too much. And it's like, is it hot yet? And it starts, boom. It's getting close. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you tomorrow live at 8 a.m. See you.
We all city like the mayor.